lucky people in the world like me, yes, you can see I've got 3 breakouts here from 2 squares of organic 100% cacao, fair trade, the best quality ever. That caused a breakout, so yes. For me, it's due to histamine issues and mast cell activation syndrome, but for you, it may not be related at all. So you can look down that research rabbit hole if you want to, if you're displaying other symptoms, if you've got lab work that points towards that. But don't forget about the other things. So me telling you chocolate is one of the biggest triggers for my acne, it may not be associated at all for you. It could actually help your skin with the antioxidants, the healthy fats, and the nutrients and the stress relief that it provides for you. It could be a number of other things. It could be gut infections. Are you sleeping? Are you exercising too much? Is your skincare routine too harsh and stripping? Is it that you've got thyroid issues? Is it that you've got PCOS and hormonal imbalances? Potentially, we know that women with PCOS already have some issues with regular ovulation due to a number of different issues. I don't use AMH too frequently with my clients. I don't see it being the most accurate. I prefer to go off other lab work. I prefer to use other lab work with things like the Dutch test to assess, are you ovulating? How long's your luteal phase? Is your progesterone nice and strong? But it could just be due to the fact that you're not ovulating and those follicles are contributing to the egg count. To fully understand this question, I think you're asking, is coffee enemas or castor oil packs better for parasites? I would say definitely coffee enemas. They can both work, so if you can do them both, sometimes doing them both simultaneously can be really helpful and just time saving, but definitely the enemas. Enema is going to cause obviously physical purging of the bowels and any parasites that are overgrown in that area. And they also really help your body to produce more glutathione, which is an antioxidant that helps with immunity and fighting infections. And it causes your body to purge a ton of bile. Bile is what carries toxins out through the body, and it also disinfects the small intestines. So it could help with any other fungal or bacterial overgrowths elsewhere in the gut that tend to go along with parasites. It's probably due to estrogen dominance in comparison to progesterone. In the second part of the cycle, you should be more progesterone dominant. So it could be that you're not ovulating or you just have high estrogen levels, and causes of that would be PCOS is the most common thing that I see with clients. It could be that you're exposed to a ton of endocrine disrupting chemicals, so plastics, phthalates, heavy metals in the system. Mold illness for some people can act as estrogen and can mess with ovulation and the whole cycle. It can also be stress, because stress reduces progesterone levels, not in the pregnenolone seal way, that's a bit of a myth, but it just kind of turns down the progesterone that's produced to try and stop you from potentially falling pregnant because your body's stressed. It also work on your liver, because if your liver is backed up and clogged up with all of these excess hormones during that time, your hormones are going to be higher from ovulation to the luteal phase, so it could just be that there's too much overburdening the liver, and that's causing breakouts. Yeah, it definitely can be disruptive to hormones and fertility, conception, and also gut health. We know that definitely causes gastric bleeding when taken for a long period of time. It thins the stomach lining and can increase intestinal permeability or leaky gut. So you obviously need to speak with your doctor or practitioner and get some of the medical advice. But I would first work on the underlying pain and inflammation. If your injury isn't healing, then there's something going on there as well. It could be just chronic inflammation in the system, eating foods that you're sensitive to, a poor omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. It could be that you are really stressed. It could be that you have gut infections or thyroid issues that are causing your pain, sensitivity and inflammation to be much higher. It's really about figuring out why you still have this pain that's uncontrolled, and potentially looking at things like a chiropractor or an osteopath to make sure there's no misalignment in the body that's preventing you from healing fully, or someone like an acupuncturist as well. No, it's probably not due to a hormone imbalance, it's probably due to poor gut health or food intolerances, or both. They tend to go hand in hand anyway, but I usually see yeast overgrowth, so candida or mold, fungus, and dairy sensitivities causing itchy. If this is a new symptom that's only occurred in the past few cycles, I would still contact your doctor or gynecologist just to let them know and make them aware. But this is likely due to estrogen dominance, maybe even a condition like endometriosis if it's been going on for a while. So clotting shows me and tells me that your estrogen levels are higher than your progesterone. Progesterone is what thins the uterine lining, estrogen is what stimulates or grows it. So you have an imbalance there. Again, a number of reasons for estrogen dominance. And then the low back pain. Low back pain is common in those with endometriosis, but also just those with chronic inflammation, estrogen dominance, and also inflammatory prostaglandins in the body, which are regulated by omega-3 fats. So try and increase those through fish. Protein powder for myself, I have a breakfast smoothie every single day. I absolutely love them. I have a recipe on my website on the free guide download section. There's two that I use. I use Nuzest vanilla protein. That's lower in histamine for me, just compared to chocolate and strawberry ones, although they all taste pretty great. That's a pea protein. Or I use another one by Moss Nutrition, and that is like a multivitamin and protein powder combined. A little bit more pricey, but I just find that works best for me and my health conditions. But if you do tolerate collagen or want to try it, the brand that I would recommend is by Planet Paleo, and this is a UK company. In the US, there's a company called Vital Proteins, or there's Ancient Nutrition who do bone broth protein, which is pretty similar. Yeah, it definitely can be, and be aware that I think there's risk with all of the different scans. So there's maybe pros and cons related to that. A year in the grand scheme of things, if you're overall pretty healthy, isn't too long in my opinion. I personally didn't have a period for 2 years when I stopped the pill, and I was in the really key time of my late teens, early 20s. That's what the time where bone is being set. So if you're later in life than that, it could be that it's not as problematic, but obviously we want to get your cycle back. It is important to get your cycle back on track as soon as possible. So if the bone scan is going to give you peace of mind, but you also need to look at other reasons for amenorrhea, but also other ways to support bone health. It's not just about hormones, although they are important. About nutrient levels, so are you not eating enough calcium? Are you not getting any sunlight for vitamin D? What about magnesium, boron, some of these other trace minerals? Strength training, managing your stress, sleeping, these are all just as important. Cortisol is a hormone, so hormones are like the messengers of the body. So when cortisol is too high, it can cause depression, it inflames the brain, it can cause foggy thinking, brain fog, confusion, memory loss short term, irritability, anxiety. Whereas when cortisol is too low, that can also cause similar symptoms. So that's why it's important to test and not assume that you have high or low, but it can also cause apathy, really fatigued, depression, not wanting to do anything, lack of motivation. So cortisol really affects every single cell of the body, but particularly mental health and emotions. And the test that I use to assess cortisol patterns throughout the day would be the Dutch test, and this is much better than a saliva test. Absolutely, so that's one of the reasons I recommended it to you. This is one of my clients, by the way, who asked this. Saw palmetto helps with blocking the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, which converts testosterone into DHT, which is the very potent androgen which can shrink hair follicles on the head and expand them on the face and body. So it's really upregulated in those with PCOS. Saw palmetto helps to block that, and it also does some other things with androgens in the system, and that's why it's commonly used in prostate formulas for males. But for women with PCOS, it can be a great one. But no, it shouldn't be something that you take long term. It should just help to get this back into balance, and then you can maintain with just your healthy diet and lifestyle in the long. So I personally use and recommend to my clients when they take antibiotics to use probiotics away from them, but I don't recommend just any probiotics. The one that I use are the spore-based ones from Microbiome Labs, in particular Megaspore. So these actually help to implant into the gut, and they do have antibacterial and probiotic properties as well, unlike other ones that just pass through the system and are transient. And then just all of the other stuff, sometimes I like to follow up with some liver support after you finish the antibiotics as well, just to get that medication out of the system. And when bacteria die off, they release a lot of toxins like LPS, so that can sometimes overwhelm the liver, which is why you can sometimes get fatigue after and bloating after being on antibiotics. And just the basics of nutrient-dense diet, sleeping well, hydrating, moving your body, getting sunlight, just the basics at the same time. Yes, because when you're dehydrated, that causes a stress response in the body. And when your body's stressed, it produces cortisol and adrenaline, which are designed to mobilize sugars from stored sites like glycogen. So if you were running from a saber-toothed tiger, your body would pump out a ton of glucose into the bloodstream so that you have energy to fight, flight, and freeze. But this can happen with just physiological stresses like eating foods that you're sensitive to, and dehydrate. I'm not a fan of any nail product really, even some more of the cleaner beauty brands. I know that they're getting better, but just last time I looked into them, they just didn't seem worth it in my opinion. If it's a conventional brand, there's one ingredient, I can't remember the name, that's really toxic, especially to fertility. So I would just avoid if possible. Just keep your nails nice and healthy. Focus on minerals, gut health. These all affect your nails. So if you have any issues and they snap all the time, they're rigid, they have white spots, then look internally. You know, it's really not different than what I'm usually doing. I pride myself on living the healthiest lifestyle that I can, to inspire my clients and just to be the best person that I can overall. But I did an IGTV and a YouTube video on the supplements that I'm taking to keep my immune system nice and strong, because I am considered immune compromised and at risk at the moment. My immune system is very suppressed from mold illness. So the ones that I recommend are designed for me only, so you can't just copy my protocol because it's probably not going to work for you, but it's just an inspiration and just to give you some ideas into things that you should be looking for as well. And I also did a podcast a few weeks ago on how to stay healthy with everything that's going on. I'm just not a fan of anything that's whole food based. Yes, things like powders, say for vitamin C, acerola cherry, goji berry, acai, then yes, but like B vitamins derived from yeast, I'm not the biggest fan of them, especially for individuals like myself who need very strong therapeutic levels of nutrients, who have immune issues, so we don't tolerate certain plants, and also those who have compromised digestive systems. It's sometimes hard to digest and absorb them. And that would probably take me 3 hours to answer. But I would first recommend getting some lab testing or work with a practitioner who can help you figure out why you might have PCOS. So there's a genetic reason, but there's something in your environment that's triggered or turned on the PCOS genes. It could be exposure to environmental toxins like heavy metals, some of these plastics, parabens. It could be stress. So did you go through a stressful time, over-exercising, under-eating, not sleeping? It could be a gut infection. You don't necessarily have to have digestive symptoms to have that. I would also look at your thyroid, which of the hormones are out of range, because it would differ whether they're adrenal or ovarian. I'm going to plug my own course here, because this would be the perfect thing if you're new to PCOS, or even if you've been trying to address your hormones for a while now. My PCOS Success online course will teach you everything that you need to know about PCOS, all the information that I've personally accumulated over the past 8 years or something. Started off with my own personal struggles, but then I started to recover and help other people. So you can find more information about that and some free lectures on my website. DIM is a supplement, or it's a compound diindole methane, and I wouldn't use it in low estrogen cases because it can actually reduce that even further. And I experienced this personally. I took DIM just trying to clear my acne and fix my periods back in the day. I actually almost stopped my periods. I didn't ovulate that month. My bleed was like 2 days and it was very light and pink. So you really need to know what you're doing. If someone has a history of breast cancer in the family, they're displaying direct estrogen dominant type symptoms, and we've done something like a Dutch test to confirm they definitely have high estrogen levels. They're favouring the unhealthy pathways like the 4-OH, 16-OH in some cases. Then that's when I would use DIM. So always test and not guess. I don't wear it every day. When it's been hot like it is on days like today, I do wear sunscreen for a few hours in the day. I think the brand is Michelle, and I've just ordered a Suntegrity tinted moisturiser from recommendation from Sarah. It is very individual to the person, and I hope that you're wanting to address the underlying causes, which is 99% internally driven, but a good topical skincare routine can definitely help. So some of the main things that I want you to take away would be not to be too harsh, abrasive, stripping with your skin. So over exfoliating is a huge mistake that I see people make. So they do a mask, then they do a physical scrub, then they do a chemical exfoliant. And yes, the oiliness may reduce, but it actually makes the issue worse, because it irritates the skin, disrupts the skin barrier, and it causes your body to overproduce more oil, which can then lead to clogged pores. So it's a vicious cycle. And I would also recommend looking into ingredients of your skincare. So if you're using it, actually makes the issue worse, because it irritates the skin, disrupts the skin barrier, and it causes your body to overproduce more oil, which can then lead to clogged pores. So it's a vicious cycle. And I would also recommend looking into ingredients of your skincare. So if you're using conventional skincare brands with tons of hormone disrupting chemicals in there, then that's going to be making not only your skin worse, but your hormones overall. But even natural skincare, don't get sucked in just by the clean beauty trend, because a lot of them can contain comedogenic ingredients, which are pore clogging. And a huge one is coconut oil. You shouldn't really be using that on your skin, on your face at all, because it's very pore clogging and can actually worsen things like acne and eczema. If your hormones are healthy, you feel great during and after, so in the period after, you're not just getting those endorphins. If you feel good, you recover well, your hormones are stable, your period's regular, you're eating enough, then yes, absolutely fine. But if you've got crazy periods, missing periods, you have hypothyroidism, adrenal imbalances, and other health issues, then I probably would suggest for a temporary period of time skipping out on the running and trying something else more restorative, because if you think evolutionarily, women would have only been running if there was danger present. So it can be a good type of exercise, but it can actually signal stress in the body and cause more inflammation. If you're lactose intolerant, then probably not, unless you do some lactose-free dairy or some of the harder cheeses could sometimes be a little bit tolerated, but your body is obviously telling you that dairy isn't working. And for some people, dairy is a health food, and they do absolutely fine with it. So if that's the case, then I would promote dairy. But if you have health issues and you physically react to dairy, then keep adding it in isn't a good idea, in my opinion. It is a very common food sensitivity. So it depends. If someone's eating a food that they're sensitive to and they eliminate it, then sometimes quite quickly, if that's the only thing that's going on. So I actually have a blog post on my website how I changed my diet to eat less healthily. So that was removing things like avocado, chocolate, spinach, lemons, citrus, apple cider vinegar. I cut them out, and within a week my cystic acne resolved. So that's a more unique circumstance, and I'd already been doing all of the regular basic things like gut healing and nutrient deficiency. But there's usually not just one thing. So if you find that you have a gut infection and you're like, yes, this is the root cause, I'm going to deal with this, there's usually not just that present. There might be low stomach acid, there may be adrenal issues, thyroid issues. So it's hard to say like when everything's being addressed. Or if it's hormone related, then sometimes you need a good 3 months or 3 cycles to notice some improvements. So I'd say anywhere from 2 months to 6 months average for most people. Yeah, so you can send me a DM or an email, enquiries@vivanaturalhealth.co.uk, and I can send you the information that you need. And I do offer like an intake call as well. So if you were interested in working with me, we can hop on a quick 30-minute call to talk more. Not really, only in very unique circumstances, but since doing the hair tissue mineral analysis, or HTMA, over the past year or so, I've really realised that a lot of people have major mineral imbalance, and sometimes adding more on top of that isn't great. One example would be high calcium, which can lead to something called calcium shell that can affect the communication, delivery of hormones and energy in the system. Adding more calcium on top of that is going to make that worse. Same with copper. Some people have copper in excess. Yeah, it definitely does, and it does have some positive benefits associated, like increased autophagy and sometimes immunity, but it can definitely deplete the system a little bit because you're not eating as much food or nutrients, and it can be a stress. Potentially, yes, it could just be the drop. So you've gone from high hormones to low hormones within a few days. That can trigger a migraine. So definitely low estrogen, but also iron deficiency. And I would even consider looking into histamine as well, and prostaglandins. Yeah, there are definitely natural antimicrobials, things like neem, berberine garlic, or allicin from garlic and extract. And it depends on what the situation is, so you can't just ignore your doctor and not take an antibiotic if it's needed for some sort of life-threatening infection. So I can't just give you advice and tell you to swap and take something else, but yeah, there are definitely alternatives. It depends on where the infection is and what else is going on to pick the best herb, but they would just be some generals. I often see this being due to mineral imbalances, particularly calcium and magnesium issues and sodium and potassium, so those key electrolytes in the body could be involved, sometimes low progesterone and also food sensitivities. If I could prescribe low-dose naltrexone, then I would, but I'm not a doctor, so I can't prescribe that, unfortunately. It does have a lot of success, especially with pain disorders and anxiety, depression, sleep, those types of things. So my approach to those problems would be addressing the root cause of the issue. So is it a gut infection? Is it a severe mineral imbalance or stress and trauma in the past? And just working on that, but there's no direct replacement. That's the thing. Sometimes with hypothalamic amenorrhea, you're told to just eat whatever, eat pizza, pasta, whatever it takes to gain weight and make your body feel full. But it can cause other issues, especially if there's other like thyroid issues going on, adrenal issues. I don't think it's imperative that you need to have carbohydrates at breakfast, but try and have something even small like berries, or make sure that your lunch and your dinner and your snacks, if needed, are containing good quality carbohydrates to make sure you're not under eating, because for some people they focus all their attention on carbs. They are very important to get enough, but it may not be that you're not eating enough protein or just food overall. So you need to find another doctor or another practitioner who can help you. Depending on what country you're in, I know it's harder in other countries than places like the US, where you can just fire your doctor and hire someone else. But I would recommend doing so because these conditions are all interconnected. And even though there may not be anyone in your local area, there's lots of practitioners who work remotely or online, like myself. So you can still get the help that you need, because it is important that you deal with these issues. This could be a sign of estrogen dominance and also thyroid issues and detoxification. So work with someone who's going to help you address all those three aspects. But yeah, let me know if you need any help on my end. Yeah, glutathione can actually affect things like melanin and tyrosinase in the body, which can lead to whitening of the skin, eyes and hair for some people. So I would see if there's any alternative antioxidants that you can go with, but also try not to blame everything on glutathione, because there could be some other things just coinciding, like a B12 deficiency or issues with copper in the body, stress in the body. We all know that leads to grey hair. So looking at all things, but also trying to find an alternative to glutathione production. It's a little bit crazy, but the virus enters the cell and injects its genetic material. I think it affects RNA, so we have DNA and RNA. I don't know the whole mechanism, I'm not a scientist, but they basically hijack the cell and inject their DNA and cause the cell to replicate more virus in the cell, and then they finally burst out and spread that virus elsewhere. I'm not sure if there's a huge difference with the whole coronavirus issue, but that's typically how the virus works. And once we've got a virus, we've always got it kind of lives in the body internally, and we create antibodies against it. But it's not until the immune system is suppressed the virus is allowed to take over. So we've probably all been exposed to viruses in the past, but it's the difference between people with a robust, healthy immune system. Yeah, it definitely sounds hormonal to me. The smell, if it's strong, like a teenage boy smell, that could be androgen related. There's a few different smells that are associated with different things, like liver detoxification, but this sounds like hormonal. I would also see if you've changed anything lifestyle-wise that could be causing more stress, or any major diet changes. Most people are stressed recently, so it could be a byproduct of the whole coronavirus pandemic. Yeah, I would definitely get some more testing with things like your blood sugar and insulin, your iron levels, B12, folate, thyroid, including antibodies, just to make sure that there's no imbalances with any of those things. But it could just be that your nutrient needs have increased, because you're not only fueling your body now, you're fueling your babies. And if it's baby number 4, your body's already been through a lot, especially if they were close in age. So make sure that you're eating enough fuel, carbohydrates, proteins, fats at every meal. And sometimes this can happen before the period as well, because your metabolic rate increases, you need more calories pre-period. Your blood sugar's a bit unstable because of estrogen and progesterone. So just try and have regular meals every 3 hours with the protein, fat, and it can, yeah. So my seborrheic dermatitis, which affects the scalp and the nose, was triggered by the pill, because the pill was suppressing my immune system, affecting my gut health like antibiotics, and allowing yeast in the body to overgrow. And it can also affect nutrient levels, so nutrients like zinc, your antioxidant status, your good bacteria, all of which have a massive influence on our skin barrier. And the synthetic hormones directly can affect your skin. So for some people it's acne, for some people it's psoriasis and eczema. It's hard to say because I don't know anything about you individually, but if you come off the pill and you address all of the different underlying factors, there's never just one thing, but you get your body overall healthy, give your body what it needs, I absolutely believe that skin issues can be resolved.